How's it going, everybody? We welcome you to episode 5 already. We're a handful of episodes into Hawai'i Football Now. Jordan and Hunter back to recap the Bows trip to Las Cruces this past weekend. It was a victory. Hawaii improving to 2-3 on the season. They end up winning by 41-21 over the Aggies on the road. Let's dive right into our opening drive here, Hunter. Just kind of general thoughts. What kind of grade would you give? Let's break out the report card here. What kind of grade would you give Hawaii in their second victory of the season?
I think, Jordan, I would give it a B. I think that's probably a fair grade. We needed a solid bounce back after what happened last week. Just that devastating first conference game when we should have handled San Jose at home. I really felt like that. We needed a bounce back. We were able to get a victory. But it was a sloppy game of football. If again, whoever was able to get a hold of footage to watch this game, tip of the cap to you, because it was not easy to watch it this last week. If you're able to go over to YouTube, you can find highlights over there. But start to finish, Jordan, it was kind of a sloppy grade of football on both sides of the ball. I mean, they took it right down our throats right off the get and kicked a field goal, but they came ready to play, and it looked like it took us a little while to kind of get our feet under us.
Yeah, I think that's a fair grade. I would give it somewhere in there, like a B minus or something like that. Like it wasn't all bad, no doubt about it, but there's surely room for improvement. I think the team will let you know that as well if you were to ask them. And the other fact about that, I mean, you know as well as anybody, Hunter, winning games on the mainland it's not easy, no matter who you are playing, right? Whether it's a trip to UCLA or it's a long plane ride to El Paso, Texas, and a bus over to Las Cruces, New Mexico, and you got to go play a team on homecoming, a team that is hungry for a win, a team that is, going to play you again in a month's time. And so everything's strange. Everything is that you got to factor in. And so, yeah, I think there are things you can point to very specifically that need to get cleaned up, that need to be improved. But if you're going to go on the road, you're as a 17-point favorite, and then you win, right? And you win by 20, and they end up scoring 17 fourth quarter points to kind of put this one away. But I think all in all, a better start, right? They started better on the road after atrocious starts at UCLA and then the game in Corvallis as well against Oregon State. They're up 10-3 after the first quarter. They lead 17-10 at halftime, 24-10 after 3. So kind of to your point, right? We talk about the final margin of victory, but it was a ball game up until, midway through that fourth quarter.
Oh, absolutely. And again, I think it's no secret that the weak point of our team is our defensive line. And that quarterback for those that weren't able to watch, they had a monster playing quarterback for them. I think he was like 6'5", 250 or something like that. Just a straight horse back there. We did not pressure him at all. He was able to get little short passes. They were able to run the ball on us, not as well as we were on them, but that was one of the main things that I noticed, Jordan, again, was our inability to put pressure on the opposing offense. And I mean, at least in the first half, that score was pretty telling of that characteristic for us. So, that was definitely something I noticed. I thought Shevin played really well, actually. Box score would show that, he's got that interception. But what it doesn't show was that was actually a really well thrown ball to Calvin Turner, hit him right in the hands, and then it ricocheted about 15 yards upfield into a defender's lap. So from a quarterback's perspective, not all interceptions should be labeled interceptions. It should be labeled offensive turnover. That would be an offensive turnover, in my opinion, because that had nothing to do with Shevin. That was 100% on the receiver in that regard. 16 for 25 for 277 is a great game for a quarterback. I think that QBR of 33.4 is pretty low, especially with a couple of those throws. That throw to Nick Mardner in the first quarter was an absolute toss on the sideline. I counted it at 53 yards in the air on the sideline, which you can only do if you have a strong arm. So I was very impressed with that one. And other than that, it was kind of a back and forth battle for the whole thing.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to expand on that point a little bit, Hunter. When you talk about that deep ball to Nick Mardner, and for whatever reason, and maybe it's just maybe it's a little harsh, maybe it's selective memory on my part, but throughout the last 2 seasons in particular with Chevin, and I'm with you, I thought he played pretty well and spoken like a true quarterback, right? That interception shouldn't be on his tally sheet, no doubt about it. But the deep ball, those go routes, those fade routes on the outside in particular, inconsistent, I would say. Like there hasn't been a really reliable connection when guys get behind the defense. It's either overthrown or a guy drops a pass. There's just been something missing on the deep ball with Chevin at quarterback the last couple of years. And not necessarily saying anybody's to blame in that, but to see that connection right out the gate, and I know Mardner's wide open in that sense, right? He beats his guy right about 5 yards downfield and it's gone. But seeing that, has that been something that you have noticed? Am I off base on that? And just the positive sign of seeing something like that on the first play of the game for them offensively.
Yeah, no, a couple things come to mind immediately. You know, our shift as a team from the Nick Rolovich era into the Todd Graham era obviously comes with the shift from run and shoot to this run and gun offense that Coach Graham has kind of coined. And then along with that is 2 different styles of quarterback play. And so Chevin, being born and raised out here, playing in that St. Louis run and shoot offensive scheme from the time he was a little kid, going and being coached by Coach Vinny Pappas on Sundays over there, being, you know, kind of a St. Louis run and shoot disciple, if you will. I mean, from a young age, you are ingrained to play quarterback a certain way under the run and shoot. I remember experiencing that from the other perspective of not coming from the run and shoot and then learning what that drop back is like, dropping back straight from the line of scrimmage. Whereas now going more pro style, if you will, in this run and gun, Coach Graham has him backing up laterally. From a quarterback perspective, that might not seem like a lot, but it's really uncomfortable to get used to if you've done the other all your life. So that's one thing. And then 2, if you are being told from the coach to look for different things from your reads, looking to hand the ball off before you're looking to throw, I mean, even in the name of it, it's run and gun. So they're looking to establish the run some way, somehow. Instead of, you know, the run and shoot is opposite. You're looking to throw the ball down the field and then capitalize on the run on the other side of it. So there's a lot going on from a quarterback's perspective that, yeah, I could probably point to and say that that could be why some of those deeper throws we're not seeing quite as many or in the same sort of rhythm as what we once did in the run and shoot.
Yeah, I think that's one thing that Hawaii can definitely expand on, especially, you know, we talk a lot about Calvin Turner and we will again in this episode of HFN because what he is doing is just video game type stuff. But Nick Mardner and what he has shown now over what I think is a fairly decent sample size, right? Even going back a couple of years now, you think to the Hawaii Bowl victory over BYU, but this season in the 5 games, you know, after a 4-catch, 120-yard performance here against New Mexico State, obviously the touchdown, he's averaging just under 92 yards a contest, 91.8 through 5 games. That's 20.9 yards per reception. He's basically catching, you know, about 4 or 5 balls a game, but putting up those kinds of numbers. And so what do you make of his emergence and the way that he has sort of taken the reins as that go-to wideout, right? We've seen different guys kind of get their time in the sun, if you will, whether it's been Aaron Cephas, Jonah Panoke, who's growing into a larger role here. Jared Smart, we know his, you know, timeless reliability out there, but Mardner has turned into not just a big play threat, but a reliable one as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think some of that speaks to the work he's done just the time that he's been here at this program. I've said it on the podcast before. For our faithful fans out there, you'll remember that back during Marner's freshman year, I was with Coach Stutzman down with the quarterbacks, kind of helping those guys a little bit. And I remember Marner just looking like a streetlight pole, like how skinny he was on the outside. He's always had that height, but never really had that strength to beat a jam at the line of scrimmage. And if you want to get those yards, which he is at the Division I level, you got to beat a jam. It's the only way that's going to happen. Really amazing to kind of see what he's been able to do for our offense, and quite honestly, unexpected, Jordan. I really thought that Jared Smart was going to be our go-to receiver coming into this season, but it's kind of looked to for Marner to be that guy, and it speaks to him and Chevin's chemistry as well. That doesn't happen by accident. When you're feeling the pressure as a quarterback, you're looking to go to your go-to guy, and so I think that says something to maybe their friendship and how they work at practice as well, because if it's happening on the field, it's happening elsewhere as well.
Yeah, without a doubt. And so diving into the numbers a little bit deeper here, New Mexico State actually had one more first down than Hawaii in this game, but the ground game in particular, where Hawaii won a lot of those statistical battles, they averaged 6.5 yards per rush, racked up over 200 yards on the ground. Did Hawaii 215 in total. Passing yards wise, Hawaii throwing for 280. New Mexico State kind of did their most damage through the air. Hawaii 11.1 yards per attempt. That's pretty good for Chevin. You talked about some of his efficiency in there as well. The Bows racking up 492 total yards of offense, 8.5 yards per play. I mean, this is probably outside of that Portland State game. I would say even more so than the Portland State game, where that game against the Vikings was a little more high and low. This was a little more sustained against New Mexico State. Just 7 combined punts in this game. It was a little more visually pleasing, especially after the week prior against San Jose State, where the Bows and Spartans combined for 22 punts, 11 each in that one, Hawaii punting just 3 times. So a little more encouraging there. And another guy who is breaking out, at least in this game, we talked a little bit about Marner, but on the ground, Dietrich Parsons. 11 carries, 89 yards, had that big touchdown. Dede Hunter just 8 rushes, didn't have a catch for the first time all season. He had 45 yards on the ground. Calvin Turner adds 52 on the ground, including that long reverse field play, which ends up going for a score and also ends up on SportsCenter top 10 again. He had 6 catches, 66 yards. We'll dive into Calvin here a little bit more in depth, but the fact that they got that run game going, including while being a little shorthanded on the offensive line, what is that build for this group, Hunter? The fact that we know Chevin Cordero is a dual threat. He has led this team in rushing, did last year. But now they've got, outside of him, you would think 3 legitimate options with Hunter, Parson, and then what Calvin Turner can do when you hand him the football.
Totally. Yeah, I couldn't have said it any better. I mean, with all of these guys on the stat sheet right now that I'm looking at, it just proves that we have a very versatile set of athletes that aren't afraid to catch or run the ball. They're wanting the ball in their hands. They're playmakers. And it shows guys that are willing to buy in and do whatever it takes. That's one thing that is kind of in the DNA of a Hawaii football team that's successful, is that we are fighters. That warrior mantra, that what it means to be a University of Hawaii football player. And these guys fight week in, week out. Yeah, the 2-3 record may not say that loudly, but that's what I get whenever I watch these guys, is that they're fighters. Speaking to the running game though, Jordan, our offensive line, in terms of size, ability, we should be able to run the ball down a team like New Mexico State's throats. We're able to recruit better than those guys. We are a better football team than New Mexico State. And one of the first ways you can tell if you're better than the other team, not always, but generally speaking, is in the run game. It's the reason why Alabama runs over every team they face. Across the board, from left tackle to right tackle, they are physically better than everyone else. And I thought that we resembled that against New Mexico State. So I'm really happy for our offensive line, even in light of a couple of injuries. But I'm hoping that they can maybe gain some confidence moving into the Fresno State game, because we're going to need all the help we get this weekend.
Yeah, it's a really good Fresno State team, and we will get into that in the second half of this episode a little bit more in depth, kind of finishing up our thoughts on this offense, bringing it back to Calvin Turner, and his dynamism is just ridiculous, right? The highlight reels show it all. And so this is a guy who, I think, to be fair, has struggled a little bit with drops in the passing game. That interception you talked about with Chevin Cordero, that was off the hands of Calvin Turner. And so it isn't any reason, I think, to stop throwing him the football. He still had 6 catches for 66 yards. But he's now scored in 4 of the 5 games, 6 total touchdowns. 5 of them have come via rush. 1 via the air, obviously, through a reception. He's got 51 touches through 5 games, 24 rushes, 27 receptions. He's averaging just over 10 touches basically a game, essentially 5 rushes, 5 catches. To me, that 10 times he touches the ball a game is far too little. But then you've also got to contend with the fact that, hey, look, you've got talented guys. We talked about Mardner. We talked about Panoke's emergence maybe in the past game. We talked about Parson having his best game since transferring over from Howard as a running back. Dede Hunter, we know what he is capable of. So how do you strike this balance? And is it in the cards to get him more touches via rushes? Does it make sense to give him a few more carries because we've seen how effective he is there? We know you kind of juxtapose that with the fact that you want to throw him the football as well, while also keeping in mind that, hey, every carry that he gets is one that Dede Hunter or Dietrich Parsons doesn't get.
Yeah.
How do you balance all that?
If I knew, I'd be up in the booth with a headset right now. But he's an unbelievable talent. In my recent memory, I consider him probably one of our most standout offensive guys, really, since John Ursua and Marcus Kemp, both who I had the pleasure of playing with. Just when they step on the field, they are heads above everyone else that they're playing against. And enjoy it, Hawaii fans. He will not be here next year. He will be in the NFL. Calvin Turner will be. There's just an unbelievable amount of footage that he's been able to put together this year. He's going to get a look, and I really hope he goes high in the draft, because it will help our recruiting for this coaching staff in the next couple of years with that. But a little bit more into what you were talking about, Jordan. I would love to see us use a little more play action with him. Because we have so much film of us giving him the football, whether through sweep, inside zone, running. I mean, we use him in pretty much everything. Use that to bait those linebackers low and throw over top of them. I would really like for us to incorporate that a little bit more, because I know other teams, other defensive coordinators are telling their defenses watching us, stop number 7 at all cost. Stop him. Do whatever you can, because he's all they got. Obviously, we have other weapons at our disposal, but in terms of standouts, he is in all red. Whenever you do any sort of scouting on another team, at least this is how we did it at UH, there's a list of guys that are in red letters to pay attention for, and he is definitely one for us. So I would love for us to incorporate him to disguise some certain things and take some more shots as an offense.
Yeah, I think it's a great suggestion, incorporating the play action game, because it's something, at least observing from the outside, it's something they want to do, right? You see the ball fakes. It is a concept, at least in theory, that they want to establish is a play action passing game. And yeah, when you get your most versatile weapon, you can use him in various ways. It doesn't always have to result in him carrying the football or getting it thrown to him. And we ask that in part because I think anybody watching, right, this offense isn't a finished product. There is still an equation to be figured out as to how best to utilize all of these weapons, because I think the talent is undeniable. There's no doubt about that. Transitioning to the defensive side of the football, Darius Mussal got to play a full game here for the first time in a few weeks after being, disqualified for targeting against Oregon State and thus missing the first half against San Jose State. He had 11 tackles, 9 solo, 3 tackles for loss, and 2 sacks. Like, that's just another day at the office for Darius. Cameron Lockridge, though, garnering a lot of the headlines, and rightfully so. 7 tackles, all solo. He had that fumble recovery touchdown on what was a weird play that may have been a forward pass, but the camera angles when you're dealing with an online stream aren't the best sometimes when you're looking to be bailed out by instant replay review. And it worked out in Hawaii's favor. He had a pick as well and garnered Mountain West Defensive Player of the Week honors in the conference. And that's big for a defense that I think is looking to build off of what was a successful week last week against San Jose State. And then this past week against New Mexico State, they at least have found a little momentum. We will see if they can carry that over to next week, but it is at least an encouraging trend.
It is an encouraging trend, Jordan, but I'm still not sold, man. They outpassed us. They outthrew us, by a narrow margin, just 3 yards. But along with, our defensive line not being able to create a lot of penetration, and you're seeing it right there that the guys that have the most tackles are Darius Mussal, our linebacker, and then Parsons, who's a cornerback. So our D line's job is to create pressure. And whenever you create pressure, then you create forced throws, quickening of the quarterback. And if they're able to throw for almost 300 yards against us, obviously we're pretty fortunate they only scored 21 points with that amount of yards down the field. I'm sincerely worried this weekend, looking at what sort of a defense we're able to put on the field right now, because running the ball, passing the ball, it doesn't look like we have a whole lot of answers. Yes, they play hard. We create turnovers somehow, some way. Guys like Corey Bethley get in there, punch the ball free. Obviously, you got a ball hawk in Darius Mussal who can run sideline to sideline and make 11 total tackles. For those listening at home, that's crazy. That's a crazy stat right there. To be a part of 11 tackles when there's probably maybe 60 total plays for the other team. So you're literally getting there that many times. That's crazy. What a talent he is. But yeah, Jordan, for someone who likes to try to lean on the optimistic side of things, I'm not on the optimistic side for our defense.
I think it's fair, right? And that's the difficult part about trying to purse through this New Mexico State victory is, okay, there was success, but you got to look at, okay, what was maybe circumstantial, what is something that is going to be week in and week out reliable, right? What is sustainable from the success that we saw? Because, I mean, to be fair, right, this is a team that I have no idea if this is accurate, but they've got to lead the country in drop touchdown passes by their opponent. Like New Mexico State had one where a guy was, all alone in the end zone and just straight up dropped the ball. And so that, in a game
the same thing.
Yeah, same thing, right? And even against in this New Mexico State game in particular, right? Again, they were only up 10 at halftime and 14 going into the third quarter. And if that touchdown catch is made, I believe they settled for a field goal in that instance. I don't think it was a missed field goal, but I mean, it's a much different story. It's a much tighter ball game, and you don't know how teams respond, and the belief maybe that New Mexico State has if they're within a score at a certain point. So yeah, it is. Those I think are the trends where you're looking at it. It's like, okay, that has to get cleaned up, right? They can't. That's not sustainable. They can't live like that on the edge the way they are doing. And so on that note, Hunter, as we kind of close out our opening half here before we take a little bit of a break, we mentioned Hawaii's 5 games in. It's a pretty decent sample size. There are 8 games left on the regular season schedule. You remember last year they only played 9 games total, so 5's a pretty decent amount. Where is this team at? Where do you what is your assessment of this group? No longer is it just, hey, this is a one-off game or something here. Like, we can look at trends now, I think, in a fairly comfortable manner. So what do you see, and where is this team at 5 games in, heading into a huge home game against Fresno State, nationally ranked Bulldogs?
Yeah, I after last week's loss to San Jose, not just from a football standpoint, but things that were coming out from, friends of mine that are still on the team. The culture of the team was failing and failing greatly. I would love to hopefully get to practice a couple days this week and kind of get a feeling for a vibe, especially with it being homecoming against Fresno State this week. So I hope that they're able to kind of build off of that from a cultural and a bonding standpoint where we're still playing for each other. Because if not, we're going to have a long rest of conference play for the remaining part of the season. So offensively, we're scoring points. May not be able to point to what style of an offense we are running, but a win is a win. We've said it before. There's a million ways to skin a cat. As long as we're getting in the end zone, great. I really could not care any less. So if you want to win the Mountain West, and especially with our team, with our defense, we have to outscore people. So 41 points is a great step in the right direction.
Yeah, and look, a tremendous opportunity coming up against Fresno State, and there are turning points in every season, right? Sometimes that turning point is for the better, sometimes it's for the worse. But a tremendous opportunity to maybe take advantage of that. That could be a turning point to really build a lot of belief if they come out with the upset this coming Saturday. Speaking of turning points, we're going to take a little bit of a break and turn our direction and attention to the Bulldogs on the other side of this. It's episode 5, Hawai'i Football Now.
This is Hawai'i Football Now from ESPN Honolulu.
All right, so Fresno State comes to town, 5 p.m. kickoff in Manoa. Again, a little bit earlier than the usual home kickoff time. It is for national television. The game will be on CBS Sports Network. The Bulldogs ranked number 18 in the latest AP poll. They climb up a few spots after being ranked 21st last week. I think this week they're 21st in the coaches poll, but we'll give them credit, up to 18 in the AP poll. They're 4-1 is Fresno State. Of course, their only loss coming on the road in a game they gave Oregon everything the Ducks could handle. Oregon, of course, up to number 3 now in the AP poll. So that kind of shows you the caliber of Fresno State. And then we know what they did a few weeks later, going to Pasadena, the Rose Bowl, and beating UCLA 40-37. Nationally ranked UCLA. We know what they did against Hawaii in week 0. This is the 54th all-time meeting between Hawaii and Fresno State. They've met every year since 1992. They are basically the longest standing rivalry that Hawaii has amongst their current opponents in terms of frequency, in terms of history. An opportunity, though, Hunter, against a nationally ranked opponent. Hawaii 10-46 all time against nationally ranked teams. They've lost 13 straight, almost hard to believe. Their last win against a ranked team, that 2010 win against number 19 Nevada, when Colin Kaepernick and company came to town. Of course, that famous game, right, where Hawaii wins. Yeah, Brian Moniz and company, and Hawaii ends up winning that game and sharing the WAC title back in 2010. What kind of opportunity is this for Hawaii?
Huge. It's our homecoming game. It's Fresno. They're on our campus. We should have had fans. Sorry, I got to throw it in there, man. No, they're nationally ranked, and could even be a higher nationally ranked team, in my opinion, considering their performance against Oregon in a very good UCLA team that, if you remember, beat the absolute snot out of us in week 0. It's a huge opportunity. Just for the game itself, but then pepper in there as well that we're playing Fresno. Hawaii, outside of maybe BYU, we really don't like those guys. San Jose in recent years has kind of taken on this pseudo rivalry with us, with some stuff going on with social media, and we both were once coached by Dick Tomey. Okay, that's kind of a rivalry. No, this is Fresno. We do not like these guys, and they do not like us. The blood is thick here in that bad blood. And man, I think back to all the times that we played those guys, no matter if They were better. We were better. We were more healthy. They were more healthy. We found a way to go deep in those games because they matter. Fresno week is just different. It really is. And plus it's homecoming. It's significant, Jordan, to say the least.
Yeah, it's a good team, no doubt about it. Their quarterback Jake Haener has been great.
Yes.
I don't throw that around lightly either. He's thrown for 1,842 yards so far through 5 games. They, like Hawaii, one of a handful of teams that have played 5 games up to this point, taking advantage of that week 0 scheduling option. He's completing 73% of his passes, 15 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. He's also ran for 3 touchdowns, and that dude is tough. If anybody watched the Oregon or the UCLA game, I mean, he got beat up and was there late in games, especially that game-winning drive against UCLA, what he mounted to go ahead, and then they gave up a score, and then another drive that he put together to eventually win that game. Their running back, Ronnie Rivers, has been there for a while now, and he's still really solid. Jalen Cropper is a really good receiver. He's the reigning Mountain West Offensive Player of the Week. He and Jake Haener have sort of split those honors the last couple of weeks. He's got 8 of the 15 touchdowns through 5 weeks. And then Josh Kelly, their other wide receiver, is averaging over 20 yards a catch. So that it's a really good offense, and their defense is giving up some points here and there, but that offense, and you pointed it out, Hunter, that it is something to be of concern, no doubt about that. But yeah, take us through Fresno week. Take us through a rivalry week. What is different about it? Is it something that is talked about during the week? Is it just something innate that everybody knows? There is usually a little different buzz to practice when there is a rival waiting at the end of the week.
Yeah, one really cool and unique thing about being a Hawaii football player, or at least it used to be before COVID, was the amount of former players that come to practice, and you get to talk with them. You get to hear past games, past memories. And the one game, other than when, those guys would face off against BYU, if it was one of those years that our schedule allowed for it, was their memory against Fresno State. They're our most consistent opponent year in, year out. It's pretty much every other year we go there, they come here. They are our ugly next door neighbor that we do not like. And we're well familiar with each other. And yeah, anytime you are playing a nationally ranked team, number one, and then number two, a rival, everyone is locked in a little bit different. The only way that you can realistically hope to be at a team like this is to be situationally perfect. So no unnecessary false starts, no holding. Everybody needs to do their job perfectly. Like that is the measuring stick for playing a team like this. The next one is holding on to the football. The only way that we're going to have a chance, if any, against this Fresno team is if we outscore them. And the only way to do that is if we hang on to the football and do what we're supposed to do on offense. So a little bit about that. And even as a player, I can remember Rolo talking about the times when they would, play Fresno, how much, that rivalry meant to those guys. That adds a little bit of heat to you as a player, because you want to be a part of the culture of Hawaii and our continued legacy against this program as well.
Yeah, it brings back some of the most fond memories, I think, for a lot of fans over the years through different eras of University of Hawaii football. I mean, I remember as a kid, I had the newspaper cutout because that was something you used to do back in the day. I'm sure kids nowadays are like, well, why would you do that, right? You just screenshot something off of your phone or something.
But I had 2007 win.
It was the 2001, 2. What was the year Ashley Lee catches the touchdown in the corner of the end zone to beat Fresno on national television? I think it was on ES. It was a Friday game. It was a Friday late afternoon game.
Many guys consider that Hawaii's best win ever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, there are moments, right, that kind of get etched in Hawaii lore, and they only come because of rivalry games or opponents who are good, right? They come against teams that are good, whether it's, Kaepernick and Nevada, whether it's, the 2007 Boise game, whether some of these games, right? And so this is a really good Fresno team. And with that, it presents a tremendous opportunity for this team. And the other thing that kind of factors in, or at least I'm curious to ask you, Hunter, how much of a factor it is. Hawaii has a bye next week, right? Both of these teams have been going. This will be 6 straight games for the two of them. And especially when you look at it from Hawaii's standpoint, right? The amount of travel that they have already done, having gone to California, to Oregon, now all the way basically to Texas, right? Eastern New Mexico, flying in and out of El Paso. Does the bye week coming up factor in at all? The fact that Hawaii will get a little bit of a chance to recoup after this one. They don't have, not that you ever want to look ahead, right? And all coaches, you're blinders, right? We're going 1-0 every week, all the talk. But the fact is there's no game next week. There is an opportunity to catch your breath a little bit. Does that factor in at all as this team gets ready for Fresno?
I think so. Undoubtedly. Hawaii has a different set of circumstances compared to anybody else in the country with our level of travel. And it's not just air miles that, has something to do with that. It has everything to do as an athlete, your ability to recuperate, recover, especially after a violent game like football, where your body already has a hard time recovering on its own. And so at home against a rival with a bye week the next week, all of the ingredients are there to leave everything on the field, in my opinion. So I think it absolutely has something to do with how they can play and play free. You got nothing to lose, and try to punch them in the mouth, because they're the ones that have something to lose, not us.
Yeah, it's an opportunity to kind of play that underdog role, and that's not necessarily a bad place to be. Of course, the elephant in the room, everybody's talking about it once again, the fact that the University of Hawaii, as you already kind of alluded to, Hunter, it's homecoming and nobody's going to be allowed in again outside of, staff, officials, and I assume the band is still allowed back in after they were permitted to participate in the San Jose State game. But it really seemed like, and this is kind of the story of how this has unfolded, right, over many weeks now. It seemed like there was hope, right? The University of Hawaii has a plan in place. They have submitted that plan for approval. Honolulu Mayor Rick Blangiardi, coming into this week, had supported that. He basically forwarded that request on to the governor's office. Lieutenant Governor Josh Green has voiced his support. He feels that they should basically have full attendance, and all of this sort of hinges on the fact that, hey, people in attendance need to be vaccinated and need to wear masks, and that is the understanding. But that request has been denied basically by the governor at last check as we record this. I'm not sure if there's an opportunity for that decision to be reversed by Saturday, but as we record this on Tuesday evening, that request has not been approved. It has been denied. And once again, we are here with this Hawaii team on homecoming against a nationally ranked opponent, the chance to beat a nationally ranked opponent for the first time since 2010. It's on national television. It is an opportunity to really kind of turn this season in the right direction. And yet we're all going to have to watch it from our couches, if you will. And I think, there is a lot of understanding in the community, I think, of the need to prioritize health and safety for individuals as well as the greater public. But I think there is a growing, not that there wasn't frustration, right, to start the season with the fact that nobody's been allowed in, but this is now the third of only 6 home games this year that won't allow any fans in. But there is a growing frustration, I think, Hunter, at least from people I talk to, what you see on social media, what you see on the internet. I think, even from folks within the program, even though they, maybe they can't speak out as openly, but, that they are doing what has been asked. They have a plan in place that seems to work, at least elsewhere. But yet we haven't seen any headway made.
Yeah. It's hard for me if I wasn't connected to ESPN Honolulu like you and I are, as members of the media now, knowing and being connected to this program because we have to cover it, talking with friends of mine, it's hard to feel like we're in football season right now, other than if you follow a team on the mainland. And for our guys, playing a rival in Fresno State, a nationally ranked rival, I know that they have to feel like no one cares. And especially when a plan is put together, a sound plan, one that is extremely safe, extremely conservative in what they're asking for. I mean, the last ask, I think, was 500 friends and family of the student athletes. I mean, that is extremely conservative considering the size of that complex. Everyone would be vaccinated. It's frustrating, Jordan. It really is, man, because you're essentially telling those guys, thank you for representing our state, but we don't give a crap. That's essentially what they're saying to these kids. And it's really unfortunate when they're expected to go out and play their hardest. I mean, let's take it a step further. What is that saying to the top recruits out here still in high school that are thinking about whether to stay in Hawaii or go elsewhere? When they're looking on the mainland, even a middle tier college on the mainland, playing in front of a packed house. I would want to go to the mainland. It's not even a question. When our governor, who is supposed to be our elected official fighting for our best interest, is not doing that for this football program and this university. It's quite frustrating. And the disapproval, I'm feeling it too, is starting to rise right now because it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. The sort of protection and sanity that he's trying to govern from.
Yeah, and I know it has elicited a lot of emotion from fans, right? I know people have gotten worked up, and I'm not saying that they are not warranted in that, but yeah, I agree with a lot of what you said. To me, it's as simple as, look, there is a plan that has been tried and successfully executed elsewhere, and I know Hawaii is unique. I totally understand that, but like you said, they are not asking for 9,000 people. I think the latest request was 1,000 for Ching and 150 for some of the indoor events such as women's volleyball, and somewhere in between that for Rainbow Wahine soccer out at Waipio. And there are other events going on Oahu and within Hawaii proper, across the state that have similar numbers, that have been vetted, that have shown a mitigation plan, and that have been held successfully. And why that opportunity hasn't been afforded to the University of Hawaii for their athletic events, to me, is just baffling.
It's yet again an example of the lack of support that our program needs to get to the next level. When people are asking, why can't we be considered to jump up to the Pac-12? It's because of things like this, where you look at programs like that and they're bringing in sometimes $100 million of revenue every year. When we don't have the backing of our own elected officials, no wonder our program isn't going to thrive. We would need to correct so many things to even be at that same level, not even leading in that sort of a category. And as a player, it's so frustrating. It's so frustrating because all you can control is how you play. And when you do play well and you aren't shown the support, man, it's disheartening.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you, Hunter. And yeah, let's we can do what we can to support the team, right? Yeah. And cover these guys. And I know a lot of fans out there are thoroughly frustrated, but also still chomping at the bit to get an opportunity to go watch those guys play in person. So again, kind of putting a bow on this Fresno State contest coming up this weekend. Again, a 5 p.m. kickoff at home at the Ching Complex, and it will be nationally televised on CBS Sports Network. As we kind of wrap things up here, we want to make sure we get our overtime segment in. I'll go first, Hunter. This is a little bit more of a positive conversation, and it is completely unrelated to football. But I know you are a big golfer, a really good golfer, by the way, for those that don't know at home. The Ryder Cup, man, it is football season. It is NFL Sundays. It is college football Saturdays, from sun up to sundown. But I found myself watching the Ryder Cup more than anything. That event is just so much fun. And you can tell the guys, the way that the pro golfers talk about it, right? Whether you're on the American side, whether you're on the European side, they have the crowds. Again, we're going to circle back. Okay, maybe we can tie it back to football. But the crowds in Wisconsin at Whistling, it's electric. It is a party. It is, it's a little different than maybe the hoity-toity country club aspect of golf. Like, it is all of the fun elements of golf, right? It is. You still got the best players in the world. You got the crowds. You got the audience. You got the prestige. You got the international flavor to it. But there's also a bit of the element of, like, your Sunday foursome that you usually go out with and maybe, have a few cold beverages and the vast majority of normal golfers. Like, there's a bit of that to it. Like, it is such a fun event. I could watch that thing every week. And I get it. The every other year format is what makes it special. You got to have a little bit of that rarity, but it's a blast.
So fun. Oh my goodness. And I don't know if those at home were able to watch it on Sunday, but there was an interview with Rory McIlroy, who obviously plays for Team Europe, but he described what it's like being a part of these events. And golfers are usually very stoic. They're very almost lack of emotion. That's why when someone like Tiger came on the scene and he was fist pumping and getting the crowd pumped up, it was so much fun to watch a guy like that. And so Rory is in this interview talking about the significance, and he's literally tearing up. He's crying about what it means to be a part of these events, to represent his country, Europe, even the United States in such a global event. It really is something special. And in the game of golf, where it's usually all about one person against another person, about being quiet, about showing honor. And yeah, that's definitely involved in the Ryder Cup as well. But when you have a team environment, it's collaborative, where you affect what I do and I affect what you do. And we're a team now battling another team. And the stakes are so clearly understood by the fans of, we got to make this putt to beat them on this hole. Man, it's just so fun. So fun. And especially with where the world is right now in social media, a lot of us follow these guys on a regular basis. And so we're well familiar with the characters at play right here. And man, it's so much fun to follow along with.
Yeah, I absolutely had a blast. I can't wait for 2 years when they're outside of Rome, I think is the next event, when it's Europe's turn to host. All right, Hunter, you got the last word here on overtime.
Man, let's go. It is homecoming week. We're playing Fresno. If, again, friends, family of teams that find their way to listening to this podcast, shoot your boy a message, show your support. I would love for us to, do something simple, like create some signs, put them up on campus, show the guys that we are support of this team, because they need all the help they can get this week against the nationally ranked Fresno team. But with that, Jordan, as fun as always for me, man.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun, Hunter. Kind of hard to believe we're already 5 episodes in. Wow. We will be back next week. There is a bye next week, but Nevada to look forward to in a couple of weeks' time. And who knows, we may be talking about Hawaii with a big feather in their cap if they can pull this upset against Fresno State. Is a tremendous opportunity, no doubt about that. One thing we did kind of want to add, 2 things. We've gotten some questions from some listeners, viewers, whether it's been on our YouTube, the Facebook page as well, where this podcast gets posted. You can hit us up on Twitter, on all the ESPN Honolulu accounts, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. Leave a comment if you'd like. You can hit me up on Twitter. Mine's is pretty simple, at Jordan Helle. Hunter, I don't know if you want to give out your Twitter handle, but folks can hit us up if you got questions, you want stuff that you have something that you want us to address on the pod. We are more than open to that. Helps us fill a little content. You do a little producing for us. We're always open to that. So yeah, I don't know, Hunter, did you want to give out your Twitter handle?
Yeah, it's all around athlete, but just stop it after the TH. All around ath. That's mine on Twitter.
Awesome. So yeah, hit us up if you got any questions, you got any comments on the pod, on some of the topics, on the team, and hopefully it'll be a bit positive, a little celebratory next week. We will see. But that'll do it for us here now on episode 5. For Hunter, I'm Jordan. We'll see you back next week. You've been listening to Hawai'i Football Now.
You've been listening to Hawai'i Football Now with Jordan Helle and Hunter Hughes, all from ESPN Honolulu.